action. It's become a byword of the Shannon's Nationals Motor Racing Championships. 2010 was a year of heated competition, with all the thrills and bone-chilling spills that people have come to expect from the series. But don't think that was the peak, because the Shannon's Nationals will take 2010 and turn it up to 11. For starters, there are new categories, like the exciting new Radical Australia Cup and the one-make Suzuki Swift Series. And then there's old friends who have stepped it up a notch. The V8 touring cars have exploded in numbers. The Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge is feistier than ever, whilst Commodore Cup and saloon cars will front with more of their classic door-to-door, wheel-to-wheel racing. They say variety's the spice of life, which is why we've got the Australian Manufacturers Championship back and the return of Australia's fastest racing cars, Formula 3 and the Australian Drivers' Championship. But that's only the beginning. There's a whole heap more to come. So when you look up the word action in your dictionary this year, the 2011 Shannon's Nationals Motor Racing Championships will be the answer you get.
So the Shannon's Nationals are celebrating a bit of an anniversary this year.
Yeah, this is round number 50, and it all started here at Wakefield Park in 2006, and we've done this 50 times. So our series runs, we go as far north as Morgan Park, we go down to Phillip Island, we go out to Malala. We're doing 7 different racetracks this year. We've run up to 10 rounds a year for 5 and a bit years now, so we're looking for another big year.
And now 11 different categories.
11 different categories, yeah. We've got the 3 extra categories and some of the old favourites along. So the way it works is that we don't necessarily have the same categories at each round, but we facilitate. For example, the supercarts might be doing 2 rounds, through the Commodore Cup will do 6 rounds. So we just facilitate people where we can fit them in.
It's a real mix-up of Australian motor racing here. You've got the exotics of the Porsche, you've got the grassroots of your Commodore Cup.
We have, it's national level motor racing. We give whatever, whether you're as small as a car to where you're running a big thumping sports sedan, we have a place to race. And that's important, that there is a place to race at a national level on the best racetracks.
And the place to race this weekend is Goulburn's Wakefield Park, 2.2 Ks, 10 turns. Barton Moore is with me to tell you a little bit more about this track. This is a really technical, fun little racetrack.
It is, and not to be underestimated. Tight turns, bumpy, and I think we're going to see a lot of tyres slipping and sliding in this track. We're
going to show you a hot lap of this exciting little racetrack with Terry Knight on board the 996 Porsche GT3 Cup car. Show us around Wakefield Park, Barton.
Well, coming into the kick here at the end of the straight, hard on the brakes, back to 3rd gear, and this tight right-hander here, very easy to drop a wheel off on the exit. Heading up the hill here over to the right, and this left here is surprisingly quick, but you'll find cars get a little unsettled here as they try to settle for this right. Double right at the top of the hill here, nice and steady here, and then this right here, very easy to hit that inside curve being a left-hand drive car. Coming down the hill into the quick right-hander here, and setting up for the left, and what we call here the fish hook. Very tight corner here, we'll probably see a lot of passing, and hopefully not too many cars running wide there, which is why the grass doesn't grow. And then the left here, setting up for the right onto the back straight. Very quick corner here, very tricky in these Porsches, and a good run down here, and setting up for the last corner here, very tight. We'll see a lot of passing here, bumpy under brakes, and what we call a late apex here, end of the curb, and back onto the start-finish straight.
And you don't get a moment's rest at Wakefield Park, which should make round 1 of the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Australia Series a whole lot of fun. We're going to take a look at that right now with a couple of exciting races. This is the grid for race 2. We'll show highlights of this, and Roger Largo went from pole position after his commanding victory in race 1. Jeff Bobick from 2nd, but Barton Moore right at the very back of the grid was Matt Kingsley, who needed to charge his way forward.
Well, we knew he was going to charge up, and he did exactly what we expected.
It was a good start. Largo got away cleanly, but Bobick missed a fast starter in Porsche racing on the outside of the front row. Got away smartly too, as this big field of 20 cars shuffled their way down through turn 1 and 2. It was a clean start. Unfortunately, it didn't last too long. Big contact at the top of the hill between Bob Thorne and Bill Fulton took both cars out of the race.
And you can see the damage there quite substantial, and neither of those 2 cars were going to finish the rest of the day.
So Bill Fulton, the Tasmanian driver who made his debut at Simmons Plains last year, limped back to pit lane. This car received the Extreme Industries Best Presented Award just before this motor race.
Wow.
He timed that very well, I think, but unfortunately that would end his weekend. in the beautifully presented 99 car. Same could be said for the former V8 supercar racer, Bob Thorne. Here's another look.
And you can see the carnage erupting here on the right, and there's a contact just there, and pretty hard to avoid, I think, for Thorne.
Big move up the inside at that tight corner at the top of the hill. A brief safety car to remove those cars helped Matt Kingsley. It got him back in the fight, and gee, he was carving his way through the field quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. In Wakefield, there are passing opportunities, and Matt's obviously found them all.
Francis Chin, the second of the Immobilised car from McElrea Motorsport, had an off. Meanwhile, the two Morris boys were side by side, and Yuey Tan struck issues. Now, this was a big moment for John Morris.
That could have been a lot worse. Hitting the grass in these cars can end nasty, but Morris managed to hang on there.
Here's another look. So we're on board with Yuey Tan, and he had a slow run out of turn 2. You can see Phil Morris going one way, John the other, and they get squeezed right out onto the gravel. Nowhere to go, and discretion the better part of valour, I think, Bart, that time round.
Absolutely, Morris did well there, just to back off enough as he needed to.
He continued his charge through, and Yuey Tan was working hard, and this, of course, played into the hands of Matthew Kingsley, who was charging his way forward. Jeff Bobick held off a massive battle pack for second through about 9th place right at the end of the race, but no one had anything for the defending champion. Roger Largo made it 2 out of 2, and some last corner semantics there out of the final corner. Jan Ginadasa and Anthony Skinner had a bit of a loop-the-loop there.
And they won't be impressed with themselves. Nothing like spinning on the last lap of a race, Richard.
Sure isn't. They would live to fight another day. A great win, though, for Roger Largo, but importantly for Matt Kingsley for the grid for the Jim Richards Endurance Trophy race. He crept his way up the order inside the top 8. Terry Knight completed the 8, but it was Largo ahead of Bobick and Rankin at the front of the field.
Yeah, it was probably running a little bit lower pressures, but we were really strong at the end of the race yesterday, so our strategy has been to come on strong at the end of the race. Probably in hindsight it wasn't a good move. We probably should have been going a little bit faster early on, but where I got hit, it shouldn't have really happened. You know, we turned into the corner and got a pretty hard hit that spun us around and probably caused some damage for some other guys as well. So, yeah, I was a bit disappointed with it, and it shouldn't have happened with experienced drivers around you. That sort of stuff shouldn't happen.
So you're out for the weekend?
Yeah, we're out unfortunately, so yeah, we've got to lick our wounds and try and get back for the next one.
Matt Kingsley, you came from the rear up into 7th. You must have been pleased with that result.
Yeah, no, after the difficulties of yesterday, unfortunately had a little bit of a problem electrically, but the boys since Sandown last year have done an exceptional job to put the car back together and to put it on pole in its first meeting back. We're very happy, and congratulations to my boys, Darren, Johnny and Moolumba Repair Centre. So they've done a really good job to put the car back on the pace, and I'm lucky to be here, to be honest.
One of the most exciting and exotic categories at the Shannon's Nationals are these, the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge. We caught up with Terry Knight, who hasn't missed a round since its inception.
I'm one of those average drivers. I've come from a Porsche Car Club background, and you know, 48, not a young bloke anymore. I do my best out there, and you know, try and look after the car and bring it home. It's a 996 GT3, 2004 model, affectionately known as Princess. Used to belong to Tony Quinn, who raced it in the Carrera Cup. She's a terrific car. It never lets me down, and yeah, great thing to drive. And 996s are down on horsepower compared to the 997s. So, you know, some tracks like this one are suited towards us, so everything's got to line up this weekend to achieve a top 3 or 4 result. I'm an expat Kiwi from a long, long time ago, born and bred in Rotorua, Australian by nature.
We'll be keeping a close eye on Terry Knight to see where the 22 car can come through the field to get a good result in this, the first of 3 races this year in the Jim Richards Endurance Trophy. This is the longest race the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge has ever staged. Roger Largo will start it from pole position, Jeff Bobick from second, but watch P7 Barton Moore, Matt Kingsley on a charge. He's got plenty of laps to come through the field.
Absolutely, but he's got plenty of guys behind him who'll want to move up the order as well, but 45 laps around here, Richard.
It's a long way. Even you, fit young race driver you are, would be struggling at the end of it. Now the lap record was set in race 2 by Roger Largo. Watch for that to go because the pace will be hot. We're away now. There was a car missing from the front of the grid. We're told that's Jeff Bobick. He was due to start there, but had dramas on the formation lap.
Whoa, in the dirt already.
Morris bouncing over the curb on the run up the hill.
Well, he was lucky to get away with that. He had wheels up in the air and everything, but he's managing to hold his ground now.
He'll live to fight another day, but dropped some spots, and in this very competitive field this weekend, you really can't afford to do that. Anthony Skinner there, we saw with Jan Janadasa, the two that spun at the end of race 2. But here's a couple of cars we've got to watch. The 996s, good under brakes with the ABS. John Goodacre leading the charge through with the former champion Matt Kingsley going the long way round, side by side through the fishhook. And Kingsley gets one more place.
That's a brave move around there. You're offline, it's dirty, and he did well to hang on to it.
You know, Matt's strength has always been good pace on cold tyres. So if you're Roger Largo right now, the only thing you'd want to do is get your head down and try and get a margin.
Absolutely. Go, go, go. That's all he can do. But what a line of cars we got here. No one's really breaking away yet.
Yuey Tan, we mobilised McElrea Motorsport. Bit of international flair in this Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge series. Races Porsches professionally up in Asia as well, so gets plenty of miles. Having a really good weekend, Yuey Tan, right on the money.
And what a great camera shot we got here. We can see Matt, the front end of the Porsche, bouncing around, which they're known to do, and he's really pushing this hard, Richard. He's extracting all he can.
And even just a few laps into this one, the Michelin tyres up to speed for the man from Southport and the Gold Coast. New paint job on that car this year, and he's through. And I guess after the way last year ended with that car parked heavily against the fence at Sandown, it cost him a championship. He's really keen to bounce back this weekend.
Absolutely, and you get a feeling with a lot of the 996 drivers, they feel that this circuit is probably one of their best chances to shine this year, and they're trying to make the most of it.
And as we speak, he smashes the lap record. Another few tenths out of it for Matt Kingsley. So he's on a charge. Here's Brad Rankin, the MDev Property Group car, followed by his good mate, housed out of the same garage, Terry Knight in car 22. We heard from him before the race. Terry was quick to point out as well that his perhaps long-suffering mechanic, Bobby the Scotsman, was also needed to be acknowledged for his great run and his great support in getting Terry on the racetrack. The only man to have started every race in the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge. It's a great, great result.
Absolutely, and he's sniffing the back end here. He's hunting around, looking very racy.
Rankin's car moving around a little bit too, and this is the key overtaking opportunity down here at 10.
It is, and he's had a look and he's down the inside.
Good move. Good move. Terry Knight, one more position. That will put him in the top 3. Oh! Crossed it up on the exit. Rankin goes through, and Goodacre will have a look as well.
That's the penalty you pay. You get on the power too early, the back snapped around, and he's had to lift. And look at the penalty. He's just lost bulk time and position. And
John Goodacre, with a grin on his face, I'm sure, from the South Australian former saloon car champ, will cruise through and get one more position. And John's been a great story in this category. Came into it last year with a bit of a toe in the water and did good things. Well, Yuey Tan, speaking of doing good things, right on the money this weekend at Wakefield Park. We caught up with him earlier on.
We've been racing in Australia since the start of 2010, and I'm actually from Singapore. So the reason why we're out here is because the motorsport market is quite a lot more mature than Asia. Right now we've got a lot of equity down there, but the racing is quite a substandard. So we've come out here to learn a little bit more about racing.
So you're going to be living here?
No, I live in Singapore, so we actually fly out to Australia to do all our test runs, and we do this championship here. And then after that we go home, we do the Carrera Cup Asia. So this is kind of like a learning/practice championship for us to go and do well over there.
Well, that just shows just how highly regarded this GT3 challenge is around the world.
Sure is, in the Australian series, gaining strength. Here goes Goodacre. He's gaining strength in this race. Gets a position away from Brad Rankin as this battle for a third right through to about 7th place continues. Terry Knight in there as well. So a bunch of Queenslanders following a South Aussie around, and a Singaporean in there as well, just for good measure.
What a mix. And these guys are having a good tussle here. Rankin's not giving up. We saw him repass Knight earlier. And we're on board now with Rankin and keeping it smooth. You can see how these drivers have to work. They're busy around here, coming to the quick right-hander down the hill, always working the wheel, coming to the tight fishhook here, down the sequential gearbox.
hard work. Never get a rest here. A lot of the drivers were saying before the races we see contact between Morris and Tan, the bottom of the hill. That can happen a lot, but drivers were saying you just do not get a break here. You're always working, always thinking.
Absolutely. We've got to move here. Goodacre down the inside.
Oh, good move. He just didn't quite have enough either. Oh, and ended up, Rankin ran wide, and Terry Knight's going to try and capitalise as well. This is a fantastic dice. Knight's in there, watch for Tan. Terry Knight going left and right, filling the mirrors of Brad Rankin's car, and Rankin's got the rears locked up and spins himself all the way back to Goulburn.
Wow, just slightly offline there and locked up the rear tyres, and that's it, all over.
Buried deep in the sand trap, and he will be going nowhere. On the other hand, we'll be back after a very short break with more from the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge and the Shannon's Nationals here at Wakefield Park. We're back at Wakefield, the Porsche GT3 Cup, and we're watching a replay but more of Brad Rankin doing the loop-the-loop at turn 2.
Well, that's how to lose control of a $200,000 race car, and at the fastest part of the track, he's lost control, gone all the way to the gravel trap. What a ride.
So we're halfway through this first of 3 races in the Jim Richards Endurance Trophy. Here's another look.
Locked up the rear. You went offline with all that tussling with the other cars, and with the car unloaded, just lost the rear end, and that's it. Game over.
Now, of course, safety car on the racetrack, that works for Matt Kingsley. It closes the gap in between Roger Largo and himself in this battle for the lead, and all of a sudden, car 50 is right in on this, and Roger Largo will have to be at his absolute best on cold tyres on this race restart.
This is, plays perfectly into Matt's hands, and Roger won't be too happy with this, but he's just got to get on with it now.
So, back to racing. So 6 rounds in the Porsche GT3 Cup this year. 3 of them will be longer races like this one. And the great man Jim Richards lending his name to a trophy for the winner at the end of it. So there's a lot on the line, as there is in this motor race now. Largo loses an 8 or 9 second margin, and Matt Kingsley, on lap record pace today, has closed the margin down. So we've got a great fight for the lead between cars 23 and 50.
Already Roger's feeling the pressure. You can see him slightly on the defensive, and that's giving Matt the opportunity to be right all over his back bumper bar coming down the hill.
And it shows the difference between 996 in Matt Kingsley and 997 in Largo. Rogers driving defensively, runs a little wide down through the fishhook. There's positions changing behind them as well, left, right and centre. It's a racy field right the way back to the very tail end of the field. There's positions changing.
So Roger's doing what he's allowed to do, changing his line once and taking a defensive line, but it's allowing Goodacre to stay in this hunt as well.
Watch for the switchback. Kingsley's got a very good run out of 10. He'll draw alongside the defending champion as they go side by side. Up to 200 clicks on this start-finish straight. And down towards that very fast kink. And Largo holds on for now.
Oh, that was very close. Matt did the textbook move there onto the straight. And he's pulling alongside again. He's getting the traction out of the corners. But he's on the wrong side for the left.
Round the outside, can he hold on? Matt Kingsley can, there's no doubt. He'll take the lead, and Largo's got to be careful to not lose second as well. So he doesn't. Goodacre's back to third, but wow, cold tyre pace from Matt Kingsley is just phenomenal.
That was a brave move around the outside. I didn't think he'd be able to hang on to that, but he did well.
Here's Goodacre. We're watching him from Terry Knight's car. Pair of 996s charging through the field. Here's the Morrises. These two have been inseparable all weekend long.
They are definitely attached to these two, but certainly some of the racier lot in this field, giving Tan a bit of a push now.
So we go back behind them to John Modesta, the former Mini Challenge racer, and then Paul Bolanowski. Oh, Francis Chin. He's dropped it on the exit, or the entry, I guess, to turn 10. Pretty similar in some ways to what we saw from Brad Rankin, but not quite at the same speed.
Absolutely. Locked up the rears over the bumps in the last corner and spun, but he's managed to, I thought, keep it out of the gravel trap. Just got the edge of it and kept going, so he's quite lucky there. We've avoided another safety car and he'll keep going.
So here's Bolanowski, car 45, been a regular contender in the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge since the series' very first round at Mallala Raceway many years ago. Anthony Skinner in a new car this year as well. He's traded up from his old 996, which was the oldest car in the field last year, to a 997, though he did have quite a nice Michelin mark on the side of his car there for a while.
He did perfectly round. I don't know who that came from, but he's been doing a good job and acclimatising to the very different 997.
Jan Ginadasa too. He's got James Moffat doing some driver coaching this weekend, Jan, and getting some advice from a former Carrera Cup winner. Here goes Francis. This is another look.
And Skinner, very close there, lucky not to get hit, but that was just a simple case of locking up the rears, and with all that weight in the rear, you get to a point of no return, and around it goes.
So here's Rankin. He's managed to limp it back to pit lane, sharing a pit crew with Matt Kingsley's Action Tyres crew. And they're looking at this car to see if they can get it back out on the racetrack and finish this race, maybe get some points. And Jamie Blakey from Porsche Cars Australia in there as well. But this might be a bit forlorn. That was a big off, and there'll be a lot of gravel all trapped up in the rear end of that 997.
And it's still on here for the lead and coming up to some traffic too, which will really play a role here.
So Largo's closed in. So that cold tyre pace now, the advantage has disappeared. And Matt Kingsley's been brought back to Roger Largo, or the other way around. And Largo's been setting some very quick lap times. He's right in the thick of this battle, and he will not give up.
And you can see the attitude's totally changed here now. Largo's on the attack, and Matt is really having a look in his mirrors.
Gee, this is good, isn't it? Good quality motor racing from the last two series winners in Porsche GT3 Cup racing, and arguably two of the fastest guys in the field. And Roger Largo, I think, buoyed a lot, not only by his success last year, but also by his fantastic run to 5th place in a class win at the Armor All Bathurst 12 Hour with the man in front of him co-driving his car. So, fantastic performance. Actually, I seem to think they finished just one position behind a similar Porsche driven by my co-commentator.
Absolutely, yeah. They had a good race along with us. And
Jennings, he's had an off and kicking up the dust down at the Fischl. Gee, we've seen some cars off there this weekend.
Not surprising, the grass just never grows there, Richard. Just gets hammered by these race cars.
So battle for the lead continues. What can Roger Largo do? Where can he get an advantage on Matt Kingsley?
Back in the pits, and Rankin's got to get going here, so the team's obviously deemed that car clear and okay to go.
Not a great deal of urgency. I'd suggest actually they're going to turn left instead of right and push that car back to the garages. They are indeed. So a shame for Rankin. He has been on fire this weekend, right at the front of the field, and proof again that he'll be a contender in 2011.
So Largo's really just holding ground here, but he'll be fixated on Matt's rear bumper bar, and you can just see by the way he's placing the car and the body language, he hasn't given up this fight. He wants this win.
They've been driving hard, right on lap record pace. It's been changed 4 times in the last 2 races, and Kingsley's had a moment there. Had a big opposite lock moment halfway through 10, and it's cost him straight line speed on the run down the start-finish straight. Largo will look. I don't think he'll be close enough. A newcomer to the series is Tony Jennings. Let's hear from him.
So Tony, tell us how it all started for you. How did you get into racing?
Well, basically came up through the Victoria Porsche Club. Did a lot of club racing, probably for the last 7 years. So it's just a natural progression to go from driving a 3-litre SC to getting into something a little bit quicker. So opportunity came up to buy the car. So yeah, I went for it.
And is this your first national series?
I did a couple of states runs with a E30 BMW about 5 or 6 years ago, but nothing too spectacular. So work commitments sort of didn't allow me to go on with that. So yeah, hopefully we'll be able to do the 6 rounds here, and yeah, we'll see how we go.
Great to welcome Tony to Porsche GT3 Cup Racing. We should also mention Steve McFadden, former Ute Racing, making his Porsche debut this weekend, having a very enjoyable time. But Barton, this battle for the lead is well and truly alive.
This is relentless, and we're seeing now the different phases of these longer races, and coming up to the final lap here, Roger is all over Matt.
Down at 1. He's only going to have a few opportunities, you'd feel. Perhaps the Fischl can certainly turn 10 to squeeze his way past Matt Kingsley. But this is racing of the highest order between 2 very good drivers.
You can see Matt's just struggling a little bit with the tyres. His tyres have gone off a bit more than Roger, but he's only got a lap to hang on here, and Roger is just all over the back of him. He's hunting for a go here. He wants the bag.
Well, what a comeback it would be for Matt Kingsley if he can hold on. Failing to even start race 1 when a 46-cent fuse blew and stopped the car on the parade lap, the formation lap, before he even got to the grid with no fuel pressure. So he's had to work his way through the field. It's been a massive drive. You'd think Largo's last attempt to get past will be down here, but he's not going to be close enough. All Kingsley needs to do is keep it straight and keep it square out of the corner, and he'll be fine, and he'll take the checkered flag first in a brilliant motor race. All class at the front of the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge, and Kingsley holds on from Largo and Matt Kingsley leads the standings in the Jim Richards Endurance Trophy race.
Well, that's just what we come to expect in these 45-minute and 45-lap races, and Matthews held on from Roger, but I think this makes amends for his terrible start to the weekend.
Goodacre, Knight, Tan, Morris, Modista and Bolonowski in the top 8. Anthony Skinner recovered to 9th place in Grant Padiachi inside the top 10. A best result for him in Porsche GT3 Cup racing.
Towards the end of the race, Roger drove fantastically and he was catching me, and he definitely had the speed to pass me, so congrats to him for a second place, but more so spotting gesture for not trying to stick it up the inside on the last lap or something like that. No, he's extremely good driving. It just showed towards the end of the stint how good he managed his tyres compared to myself. I probably went a bit too hard, too fast, and I paid the penalty at the end, but very lucky for my team that we couldn't be happier, and thanks very much for everyone involved.
Look, got a decent start and had a good gap, and then obviously Brad went into the gravel and safety car came out, so all that effort to get in front was lost, and then for some reason they've pulled Brad's car across the track halfway through, and his undertrays dropped gravel all over the track, and we all had to go through it on the restart, but I was the first one to go through, so the tyres were very skatey, had too many marbles, and I had no traction, so Matt and John got up inside me, and once I got grip back I took John again and I set out to catch Matt, and it was good pace, it was good to catch him, but one thing to catch and another to pass, you know, he's pretty hard, and I wasn't going to take any risks where we end up both not finishing.
Oh, Kingsley and Lago, you know, they're both 1 and 2 in the country, so it's always hard to compete with them. I was really happy, to be able to keep up with them for a while and get them, work with them. It was a great effort.
Yeah, he should be pleased. John Goodacre, he's racing at a very high level. He's in the top 8 of the points after round 1. Roger Lago leads, but well done to Phil Morris, who's 3rd overall. But Bart, great racing this weekend.
It's great to see the Porsches in the elements with the longer distance racing, and congratulations to Paul Bolonowski for winning the 996 Cup class.
And Matt Kingsley takes out the Jim Richards Endurance Trophy's first round. There's 2 more to go in that series.